indicative of Stephen King. The Shining is sort of like his ultimate statement.
The opus.
Yeah.
But then you have movies like Pet Sematary where you get to talk like that guy.
Is so good, though.
Don't go that way. Don't go up there. What goes up there, don't come back the same.
That road there.
See, now that should be, I think that should have consideration just because of that.
Pet Sematary is the worst vibe of any movie I've ever loved.
Yeah, okay. That's
a terrible vibe.
Okay. Yeah, well, that was just a depressing way to start off the show.
Well, that's how I do
just
it.
Doing it anyway. Hello, everybody. This is Between the Streams. This is our weekly show about entertainment.
By a semi.
The spoilers. This is our weekly show about movies and entertainment, and it is Friday. We're coming in here right now, and we have a ton of stuff to talk about today. We're broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube, and as you're rolling in here, you may see one of our main question, too, where we're talking about what is the best Stephen King movie ever made. So based off of a book, obviously, but what's the best one that's ever been out there? And we're going to get into a discussion of that. We have a few things to get to first, but if you're hopping in there, go ahead and put your comments in the chat. Let us know which ones you think are the best, and we'll debate and let you know if you're wrong, or maybe you can tell us if we're wrong. That's I think how it's going to go down.
Yeah.
I'm Greg Nibbler.
I'm Ryan Juanita.
And before we get to that, let's talk about the leading story today that we've been seeing, and that is the fact that we are getting another DC movie, and we've got a lot of news coming from DC lately about all of these kind of side character movies that they're going to be doing. But this one, they're bringing in some heavy hitters on this one.
Yeah.
And it is the fact that we are going to get a Batgirl movie.
Yes.
And it's with Joss Whedon, of all people, behind it.
Yeah. He's crossing over.
Yeah. Crossing over from
single-handedly
Marvel.
save the DC.
It's like they're bringing in, he's the superhero for
critical
DC.
failures.
Yes. Yeah. So the fact that they're going to be doing this, and we've got some info on this as it's coming out.
Yeah.
So he's in finalizing a deal with Warner Brothers to write, direct, and produce a Batgirl movie.
Yep.
And so what do you think about this?
Well, first of all, I have only ever known Batgirl as sort of a secondary character.
Right.
That's how she's always been portrayed in the movies, and I wasn't a huge comic book guy. So when I first heard that, I was like, what? Why would Joss Whedon want to do that? Well, there's a lot of reasons. For one thing, I think that rightly so, female superheroes are sort of getting their due right now.
Yeah.
And, people are tired of the same old thing, so this is one way to revitalize it, but for another, he's taking a pretty interesting origin story that comes out of the comics called the New 52 version.
Yeah.
And, this character sounds a lot more intriguing and interesting than any Batgirl character we've seen on screen. And for those who don't remember it, Batman Forever is one of the worst movies ever made.
Yeah,
it
Batman
actually
is
up in the list in the Razzies for one of the worst movies ever made. And all we have for a cinematic portrayal of Batgirl is Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah.
With her baby talk request to Alfred to suit her up. And then we've got the nipple outfit. All of the Batman costumes for that movie had nipples.
It's true.
They put nipples on all of the
right. Just George
costumes.
Clooney had them.
Clooney had nipples.
Robin had them. Yeah, they all did. I don't know why that was necessary.
And I looked it up today because I've seen that movie once and I still remembered how horrible it was. But you can't fathom how horrible it is until you see the scenes, in your face. So, point being, this is well worth a reboot, if anything is.
Well, and yeah, so this Batgirl, it's going to be based on Commissioner Gordon's daughter.
Yes.
So there's a few different iterations of Batgirl in the comics, but this will be that one. Her name
Barbara Gordon.
Barbara Gordon.
And I did see when I was watching that YouTube clip. I don't know if we're going to play that. It's the worst thing ever, but her name was Barbara.
It was, so that was that iteration.
Yeah.
Barbara
I guess,
Gordon.
but
so that's what Joss Whedon is working on right now. So yeah, he's really going full force into this. So obviously he's pretty passionate about it if he wants to write, direct, and produce it.
Yeah.
So another thing that DC is doing with these side characters, which we're going to get into again a little bit more.
Well, and
going forward.
The other big question here is, how are they going to incorporate this into Zack Snyder's vision, which we're not fans of. A lot of people aren't fans of, as far as his writing and his character development. But the question is, are they going to bring in Ben Affleck as Batman at some point, or is that just like stomping all over her badassness? The origin story for New 52 is that she was brutally attacked by the Joker and returns as Batgirl.
Yeah.
So is Jared Leto's Joker going to come into it? You have to assume. if they're using that origin story,
Right.
that Leto will be a part of it.
How they're going to tie all this together.
Will they take some of those Suicide Squad characters, which Margot Robbie is producing her own side spinoff movie with Harley Quinn? Are they going to enter into the picture? So there's a lot of ins and outs. When you have a cinematic universe, like how is this going to play out?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think the headline is just Joss Whedon, one of our great filmmakers right now, is doing it. I mean, that's like that's got to give anybody hope about the DC movies ever Warner.
Yeah, that it could end up being a pretty good movie.
Absolutely.
So we'll see what happens with that. But that's the leading story there. Batgirl getting a movie. Joss Whedon kind of heading the whole thing.
Yep.
And I'm seeing people pop in on the live chat. A lot of people are giving their favorite Stephen King movies, which we're going to get to those.
Let's get to that.
Do you want to hop to that right now?
Let's do it.
All right, let's talk about that right now. So one of the other big stories, of course, coming out this week is that we got a full trailer for the new version of It, and we were talking about this, like, what is the best Stephen King movie iteration? A lot of people are saying Shawshank. William
is
says
an
Christine.
easy one.
Debbie says The Stand. Not too many of the movies actually followed his books, but The Stand was close, and that was that miniseries. That was actually pretty good.
The Stand was great. I mean, for a TV miniseries, Rob Lowe was in that.
Yep.
There was a lot.
Parker
Gary
Lewis.
Sinise.
Yeah, Gary
It's a
Sinise.
good one.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely had its problems, but it was fun, and it really did follow the book. I read The Stand. It's 1,100 pages of
it's long
of digging, but it's an amazing story. A couple that you might not even think about, though, The Running Man, which was a Richard Bachman book when he wrote under Richard Bachman.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that was like Stephen King. That's one of my favorite sci-fi movies ever.
Yeah, The Running Man is great.
That's a great one.
A lot of people saying The Shining. I see that.
Of course, yeah, that's going to be. You got to figure that's got to be number one.
PJ says Stand By Me, no contest.
And Stand By Me is one of the greatest coming of age movies ever. But again, that's sort of like his Bachman style. That was also written under Bachman, originally titled The Body. That's when he would use that surname so he could kind of like dig into stories that weren't crowded in horror like his other stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if I had to rank it, I would have to say The Shining is first, just because. But I mean, I just kind of put that one aside, and then everything else after that. That's where it gets really hard for me.
Yeah, and there's a lot of bad ones. Yeah, but some of the bad ones are fun too.
There's some bad ones.
The Dark Half is kind of a bad one that's really fun.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible movie. It's just not an amazing movie, but it's a fun story.
Well, and a lot of them didn't translate that well into movies.
Exactly.
Like Needful Things, the book is great. The movie,
the movie is fraught with problems.
Yeah, I mean, but then you have things like The Mist, which is just straight horror.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie.
You didn't like The Mist? No. Why? Just because of the movie, or did it make you nervous?
I just couldn't get engaged. I don't know. Yeah, it just didn't get me. Children of the Corn, though, I forgot that was a Stephen King
absolutely
book as well, and we watched that the other day. It's even weirder than I remember.
Yeah.
Little kids take over a town and kill everybody.
Oh, it's freaky.
Memorialized in an amazing South Park episode.
The one, and we're going to bounce on to some other topics here too, and we'll circle back around to some of this because we do need to talk about it. But the one that scared me the most as a kid was Cujo. Just because
Cujo's
after I saw
great.
Cujo, every single dog I saw, I just assumed, especially St. Bernards, I was terrified of St. Bernards.
You really would think that they couldn't make a 90-minute movie or a novel for that matter about a mom and a kid in a car being brutalized by a dog, but it really works. It's a good film. If you haven't seen it, it's full of terror. It's it's pretty interesting.
And Tiffany's bringing up the Dark Tower series coming up. We've got some news on that actually that we're going to bring here in just a minute. But let's talk about this It trailer.
Let's do that because we always talk about reboots that suck and why they shouldn't be made. But this is a great one for reboot. I mean, I'm so surprised they didn't do this sooner, and I'm really stoked about this.
It looks fantastic, and I like the original. It was the series.
It's good. That was another miniseries.
Yeah, and it was great. Tim Curry was great in it, and so I was.
Tim Curry is the ultimate Pennywise. So
he
far.
really is. And this newer version, the trailer looks like they're really paying some homage to the original one. They're staying really true to the book and to the city, Derry that it's taking place in, and so. I'm really hopeful about this thing, and I don't know. I'm curious what people think. If you enjoyed the trailer, if you're excited about the new It, the one thing that's obviously the biggest part of it is Pennywise.
Yeah, well, and if you're watching this, if you haven't seen this trailer yet, there's a scene. It's coming up in a moment for those who are viewing the video when they're looking at slides, and he sort of appears as a woman inside the slides, but it's actually Pennywise behind it. That is kind of terrifying.
It's
and
pretty terrifying.
It gives you a little bit of chills. And if you're already getting chills from the trailer, that's an exciting first look at this movie.
It is, and it's interesting that it's got such a Stranger Things feel to it.
Yeah, and that's what's so great about it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's set in the 80s, so they were able to do that. And one of the reasons it has a Stranger Feels vibe is because of Finn Wolfhard.
Yeah,
who is Mike in Stranger Things.
From Stranger Things.
But he's a great actor, so.
Yeah, and I mean, Stranger Things paid a lot of respects to Stephen King in that series, and
That's
now
true.
this is it, and it's got some Stranger Things-esque things in it.
That Stephen King is so hot right now.
Yeah, it really is. Really is. That's Stephen King. Trevor's asking, what movie is this? We're talking about It, the new movie that's going to be coming out. And one thing I didn't realize about this is that it's going to be 2 parts. So there's a sequel that's going to come out.
I think it had to be. It's a really long book as well, as many of his are.
True. So the first movie that's going to be coming out is portraying them as kids, and then the second one's going to be them as adults coming back.
But I'm actually glad that they did it in 2 parts instead of 3. They always try to push it into a trilogy these days, and the miniseries itself was in 2 parts. I think this is another sign that they are running right along the right path.
The right way to do it.
Yeah.
Mickey's saying Carrie is the best Stephen King movie.
No, that's a scary
Kyle
movie.
says Thinner. Thinner was good. I kind of forget about Thinner sometimes. I mean,
I do not think that was a very good movie.
The book was all right.
It's a great story.
Yeah. Okay.
I really enjoyed the book.
So sorry, Kyle. Ryan says no.
Sorry, dude. That was kind of a mediocre movie. Man.
All right. Well, keep those coming in there. We got to bounce along and talk about a bunch of other things. So coming up, we do have some Dark Tower news. We've got some Star Trek news. We've got Spider-Man news. So many things have happened this week. It's been a huge one for movies and television. But one thing we always have to do is give you your weekend box office preview.
We hate it, but we have to.
We have to. And there actually is a really big release for this weekend, and it is,
I suppose,
Ghost in the Shell. It's gonna be huge. Whether it's good or not, that's another question.
I haven't even looked. Is it on track to make a lot of money?
I'm assuming. I honestly haven't double checked what the box office.
I just don't know that this property. I know that the fans of this property are super vocal, but I don't know that the mass audience is going to come out to see this thing, especially now that it's being panned a little bit.
It's a good question to ask everybody who's watching right now. Are you excited about Ghost in the Shell? Is this a movie you're really excited for? I know there's a lot of talk, just about the fact that Scarlett Johansson was cast, and that it should have been an Asian person who was cast in this role, because it is.
There's that, but I think mostly what we're hearing and what Rick Marshall said is it's a lot of cool visuals, which I was saying last week. It looks amazing just visually, but it rings a little hollow when it comes to the actual storyline, and as so often is the case, it's hard to translate something people love so much into a film. Unless you really take a lot of time with it. And it looks as though that may not have happened here.
That they just kind of threw it in.
I mean, it's also the director of Snow White and the Huntsman.
Yeah.
That's not a great movie.
No.
I was not a fan of that.
It's not. Jeffrey says, yes, excited. Maybe you can let us know why. I'm assuming you're a fan of
it. It looks amazing on
the original.
screen. I'll say that, and I hope it'll just be fun. I mean, right now it's sitting at like a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not great. But that doesn't mean it won't be entertaining. Yeah.
Well, it is out this weekend. So, again, if you have any comments on that, maybe you can tell us why we should be excited about it. Let us know for Ghost in the Shell. And for me, it's just that I'm not familiar with the base material.
Well, we can tell people a little bit about it. Scarlett Johansson plays a character called the Major, who's a cyborg. That's why she's in that skin suit thingy. Most of her body, I think, is robotic. And she's a counter-cyber terrorist field commander. Her task is... for Section 9 is to thwart cyber criminals and hackers, and all kinds of crazy stuff breaks out. It's like a dystopian future.
And hilarity ensues.
It's very fun.
That's the wrong way to say it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is out this weekend, Ghost in the Shell. The other one, I don't really want to spend too much time on.
No, there's a lot of character development in this one. This looks like it's going to be very, very richly drawn.
We got to tell you the big movies that are coming out for
Alec
the weekend
Baldwin
box office preview.
is a talking baby.
The Boss Baby. Yes, the Boss Baby.
Can I say one thing about this? It's also getting panned pretty hard. I watched the trailer in the theaters, and I laughed in spite of myself. Because
really?
I did. I don't think it's going to be a great movie, but Alec Baldwin is just really funny to me, and I did laugh.
Okay.
I'm not going to go see this.
Are you the guy that laughs during the trailers, like just ridiculously during?
No,
okay.
I'm not that guy.
All right.
I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that. I said that in a very leading way.
I'm very courteous. I'm not that guy.
Okay. All right. You're not that guy. Okay. There's no problem if you are. Just wanted to clarify. All right. So those are the two biggest movies that are coming out this weekend. Ghost in the Shell And the Boss Baby. So
and
the Boss Baby. Obviously a hot topic, the Boss Baby. All right. We're kind of bouncing all over the place here, but let's get into some news that we have. And, we just talked about it and deciding on the best Stephen King movie ever made, which is a tough one to decide on, and everybody's got their opinions on it, as I'm seeing coming in here through Facebook. Kermit just said It, the original It, and maybe this new one. We do have news on The Dark Tower.
Yes.
Now, Dark Tower is one I'm really looking forward to. I love the books. I haven't read the final 2, but I'm trying to get everything read before this comes out. And it turns out I'm going to have some more time to do that because this thing keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah.
It keeps getting pushed back. Originally, what it was supposed to be in February of this year that it was supposed to come out.
And now July, and as I believe EW pointed out, we still haven't even seen a trailer for this thing.
No. All we've seen are some still images from the set.
Yeah.
And then one teaser poster.
That would be concerning, but Sony showed some footage at CinemaCon, I guess, according to EW, and it went over pretty well.
Okay.
Critics and fans both dug it. So also it looks like the reasoning for this is for the Emoji Movie.
So it's being pushed back.
Sony is trading it with the Emoji Movie, so they can get more summertime fun time out of the Emoji Movie.
All right.
They think apparently that this is going to be a huge hit.
So that was it. It was pushed back from February to July 28th, and then now, what is it? August
4th.
August 4th.
So not just
August
a week.
4th.
They just push it a week.
All right. Still,
Yeah.
it's still weird. We haven't seen a trailer.
Yes.
I still feel like there's something we're not finding out about this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're all of a sudden like, oh no, we want to make it a fall release now, and it's just going to keep going. I don't know what's up.
It's one of the most ambitious stories to take on, and I think part of your concern there is also to deal with the fact that this movie has been in limbo for 10 years.
Yeah.
Had 3 or 4 different directors, including Ron Howard at one point, who dropped it
because
he decided it was going to be too hard, I think, or who knows all the factors in that one. They're also jumping the movie in is not quite an origin of the story, and they're also creating a series, and someone is blasting bass at us like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So if you can hear that on screen,
our
walls are shaking.
We are broadcasting here at Digital Trends headquarters in Portland. So
the office is in disarray. We've expanded.
Just behind the scenes, but there's a huge shift around here since the office is expanding. So there's construction people and there's bass being played for some reason.
Pretty sure that's Caleb just taunting us.
It's probably Caleb.
But,
we'll assume that's Caleb. Langoliers. That is a great.
It's
a great
crazy
book.
story, yeah. I never saw the movie.
Okay, please keep those coming in. Let us know if you have comments on anything else that we've got.
Summing up Dark Tower, we're just going to have to wait and see.
We'll have to see where it goes.
Also, concerning the Emoji Movie, I saw somebody tweet about it from CinemaCon, and they said, saw some footage from the Emoji Movie. It's not looking any better than you would think it would.
Yep, I would kind of think that's
tough.
where that's
at. Tough sell.
Yeah, tough sell. Rich said now it's going to get bumped for the LOL movie that's coming out next.
Oh boy!
All right, so let's move along here because we've got a lot of other stuff to get to because we had the Spider-Man trailer that came out. We've got some news on Spider-Man. We've got some news on some of the spin-off movies. Lots of things to get to. Let's get to this right now, though, and this is kind of breaking news that just came out this afternoon for the Star Trek Discovery series.
Yeah.
Which has also been pushed back several times. We know a lot about it, but we did just get a pretty major actor, I would say.
I actually really like Rainn Wilson. And
Rainn Wilson.
Sorry, I just spoiled it for you. You're really setting it up.
Rainn Wilson.
And he hasn't been able to find a vehicle since The Office, so I'm kind of stoked that he's got something going on here.
And the news is this, that Rainn Wilson was cast in the role of Harry Mudd. Now, Harry Mudd was in the original series, and he's kind of this boisterous con man that had interactions with the original Star Trek series.
I'm trying to place him, but I can't quite remember him.
I remember him seeing his picture. I remember him. I mean, he's kind of like a big drunk guy with a mustache.
Yeah, he's
basically
one of the sillier
cons
characters.
Everybody.
Yeah,
which I think that's a great character to bring back, and that's
cool.
Who Rainn Wilson is going to be playing. So that's coming up in the new Discovery series.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, speaking of properties in trouble, possibly in trouble, pushed back multiple times. They lost their lead producer in Brian Fuller, who was sort of the brain trust of the thing.
Right.
So, we're still waiting to see what's going to happen there.
So there's your Star Trek Discovery update. Rainn Wilson cast in that. Something else, as we're bouncing along here again, coming up, we've got Spider-Man news. We've got a whole bunch of HBO, some True Detective news that we're going to be talking about, some American Horror Story. So things to get to as we just kind of update you on everything from this last week in movies and television. And we did get another trailer for War of the Planet of the Apes. And I am a big fan of this rebooted series.
Yeah.
I really like them.
And I have
Caesar
just not watched them.
Really? You haven't watched
Just
them at all?
somehow I've just I don't know. I always think I'm gonna feel bad for Caesar, and it just makes me sad.
They try to make you
inside.
feel bad for the apes. But the thing is, the key is to remember, if you're feeling bad for the apes, remember it's called Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen.
Well, and that's the other problem that I have with this trailer. So for those who haven't seen the trailer yet, if you want to come into this movie with
For the third one, yeah.
obviously we know, the whole how it all plays out eventually, but this is for War for the Planet of the Apes. The trailer just came out, which that arrives in theaters July 15th. I feel like the trailer gives away a lot of the
does.
plot.
It does
So
show a lot
if
of
you want
what's
to go
going
in
on.
a little bit blind to this one, I would not watch the trailer.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's just so many spoilers, I
Yeah.
feel like. But yeah, I mean, it's Woody Harrelson as sort of the antagonist, and it looks like Caesar and his group are basically forced to take up arms, even though they were trying not to.
But if you've watched the other two, you
Yeah.
know that's exactly what was happening.
Right.
That's how Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Spoilers, but I mean,
Yeah.
you already know. Yeah, of course they're going to go to war.
Yeah, it's just how much they show of it.
Yeah, they do seem to show a lot in this trailer. So
Yeah.
if you're looking to not have anything spoiled, maybe skip that one.
Yep.
But July 15th, that comes out. All right, the other big trailer we got.
Which also shows too much.
Yeah,
But
Spider-Man
I'm excited about
Homecoming,
this,
the
yeah.
new Spider-Man movie. Are you excited about the new Spider-Man movie and the direction they're taking? Obviously, we got to see Spider-Man in Captain America: Civil War. And so we got to see a little bit of him there as making his appearance. This new trailer, we get to see a lot more details about what's happening in the movie. Tony Stark is definitely in it.
Yeah.
And we knew Tony Stark was going to be in it. It's hard to say how much, but he's part of the trailer, and it's kind of like a mentor role, which we expected. And then we get to see Spider-Man in action fighting some villains, and we get to see one of his main villains, which is Vulture.
Yeah, now, for all the things that we got to see, you learned a little bit more about Vulture, which I thought was the interesting part of this whole deal. I mean, aside from the trailer looking pretty good.
Right. So the villain Vulture, to give some explanation of it, and actually ties back to Tony Stark too. So
Right.
played by Michael Keaton, Vulture, his real name is Adrian Toomes in the show, and he's runs basically a scavenging business in New York. Kind of recycles things, scavenges, old stuff. When he was part of the way it ties into the Avengers it was his company, this Adrian Toomes, Vulture company, was part of the cleanup after the original Avengers movie when they destroyed New York with the aliens.
See what they did there?
They tied it all back.
it all up with a bow.
And during that process, he and this is part of the public knowledge, so
Yeah.
I feel okay saying this. He discovered some alien technology and thereby was able to create his own Vulture suit, is
Right.
what it ends up being. And he's really ticked off at Tony Stark because Tony Stark kind of pushed his company out of business.
Right.
Or
As
gave his
he
company a lot
has
of trouble.
Seemed to have done with every company.
Yeah. So he's mad
That's
at Tony
a big part
Stark.
of the Iron Man series, too.
And I guess maybe Spider-Man tries to get in the way of that. So that's kind of what we know. So Vulture, obviously going to be a big part of it. I'm excited for the movie.
I am too. This is another one though. I feel like if you watch the trailer, there's so much given away.
Yeah.
I would go through it, but again, I don't want to spoil it for people that are trying to go into some of these movies a little bit blind.
Right.
But
Right.
I think it looks really good.
Yeah. So Spider-Man, Vulture, let us know what you think. Vulture is... This Spider-Man Homecoming is the name of the movie. Vulture is the villain. That was the exciting part of getting to see some of that. So let us know what you think. And speaking of Spider-Man, but in Sony's version, because Sony still has the rights to a lot of characters, and we know that Venom is getting a movie. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. So Venom, a frequent Spider-Man villain, is getting his own movie, but it's separate from the Spider-Man movie. So they're not going to interact, most likely, because it's completely different franchises. But
Yeah.
Venom getting a movie, and it's now being rumored that this is... Well, I think it's fairly certain that it's going to be a rated R movie.
That's the
going,
That's what we
hypothesis.
think, and we also have Dante Harper, who is the writer of Alien Covenant, the forthcoming Ridley Scott, the second in the prequel series that he's doing. And anyone who's seen any Alien Covenant stuff knows that this is going to be a really scary movie, going back to alien roots. So to me, this is a really interesting choice because we were wondering how the hell Venom was going to work.
Yeah.
With especially if they can't use the Spider-Man property, which they're sharing with Marvel, and it's this big legal weirdness. But what's interesting is if this becomes sort of an R-rated sort of horror style movie, I think it could work really well with Venom just being like this monster. I
mean, it's something nobody's done so far with with the comic book movies.
Exactly.
It's really just take it to a horror franchise.
And how they've been able to do this with comic book movies now, because they're so ubiquitous, they make so many of them, how they've sort of been able to do new ways is by genre bending. Like Deadpool's almost a comedy. Logan's basically almost a drama. And again, also bringing in the R rating so you can get a little bit messier, a little bit more violent. And so this is sort of following that playbook.
I'm all for it.
And if you can see the picture that we got from, I think that was in Screen Rant. Oh, no, Collider. If you're watching the video, it's an awesome picture of like sort of the mix of Alien, the Alien aesthetic, the movies that is, and Venom. So
well, hopefully we get a whole franchise of that kind of thing. I think that could be really exciting.
Could be really cool.
So that's our update on Venom. Coming up, we've got some news on HBO, and I want to get to the True Detective stuff. We're going to get to that here in a minute. Also, I'm going to give a little bit of an Iron Fist review. I know that's kind of a hot topic. I'll give one here in a bit. Usually, most people don't like it, but I'll talk about it. Before we do that, one more. It was kind of a week of trailers, and this is a movie I was already excited about, the Valerian, and the Planet of 1,000 Cities. I think I got, or the City of 1,000 Planets. Excuse me.
Something.
The city of Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. There we go. And we already saw a trailer for it earlier this year, or late last year. Luc Besson, who of course is behind The Fifth Element, one of my favorite movies of all time. And in this new trailer, we get to see a lot more of the city, which is, so behind the scenes, the city is called Alpha, and it is the city of 1,000 planets where for centuries, different alien species have lived together in harmony, sharing their knowledge. And so this trailer shows a lot of aliens.
There's a lot of new footage in this trailer, too.
Yeah.
Compared to the first one. There's a lot of new stuff.
It's a lot of aliens, which I'm already sold. I mean, that's it. Show me a lot of aliens, I'm in.
And if nothing else, even if this turns out to be a total mess, this will be visually stunning. I think we just know that now.
Yeah. I don't even care about
It'll
the
just
plot.
be fun to see this in the theater no matter what happens.
Doesn't matter to me. As long as they get chased by some weird-looking alien people, I'm good.
It looks pretty cool.
Yep, I'm 100% in.
Just the world building that he's doing here is so intricate and so deep. And he's got really good source material, as we talked about before, to work from. So should be fun.
So some more news on Valerian. A better look at that. So definitely check out that trailer if you're interested in it. All right, we've got an HBO block, a bunch of HBO news that came out, including a new look at Game of Thrones Season 7, which Game of Thrones, there's been so many things happening. It seems like Game of Thrones is kind of taking a back set for a little while. And now...
and it would normally be coming out next month.
Yeah.
But they pushed it to July.
They pushed it to July. And this newest one kind of shows the major characters that are left. And I'm sorry if this is a spoiler. It's not really, but I guess it is. Anyway, the trailer shows Cersei, Jon Snow, and Daenerys all kind of in their own walks. It's called The Long Walk, is the name of this trailer. So it's all of them walking through their respective domiciles, I guess, and clearly getting ready, kind of gearing us up, because these are the three main people that are going to go to war.
And we don't see a lot, but what I liked about this was just how badass Cersei looks. She's like...
Cersei's.
Oh, my God. I mean, she definitely is just...
Who do you think's going to win? If you had to guess right now.
There's all those fan theories. I have no clue.
But if you had to pick one,
I mean, I think...
Who'd you put your money on?
I think Daenerys seems like the hero. But Jon Snow is just... You have just as much of an argument for Jon Snow. And then there's that question of, are they cousins? Because everyone thinks that they're going to get together.
Yeah,
and that would
Game of Thrones,
they already have they already have plenty of that in Game of Thrones, anyways. But that's the whole idea of a song of fire and ice.
Yeah,
he's the ice, she's the fire, and all that. So we'll have to see. I don't know. I think if you've got three humongous dragons, and you can't be burned, she's got a good chance of winning.
You put it on her. They also show one of the White Walkers at the very end. My money.
Yeah, then you get the zombies.
If I'm a betting person, as far as who's going to win the Game of Thrones, Cersei. I think Cersei's going to win.
I mean, that'd be a good twist.
I think we've shown evidence. Obviously, nobody is safe, and the better person you are, the more likely you are to get killed.
And just end on a horrible dark note.
Yeah.
Which then she just blows up the whole world.
It'll be Cersei, and it'll be like Daenerys and Jon Snow getting their heads cut off, and then that's the end. And then Cersei smiling. That's the end of Game of Thrones. So there you go. Spoilers. I just spoiled it for you. I think that's what's going to happen. So Game of Thrones.
So there's the Game of Thrones stuff.
We had some news on True Detective. Now, obviously, if you watched the first True Detective season, it was fantastic. True Detective season 2 did not get as great of reviews.
It did not.
It did not. And now, though, there is talk of possibly a season 3.
Yeah.
And getting actually a pretty big person involved, which is David Milch, the creator of NYPD Blue and Deadwood.
It's a good little resume.
Yeah, and supposedly teaming up with the creator of True Detective, Nick Pizzolatto. I don't know. I'm trying to make sure I say these names right. Nick.
Got to get that Italian.
Pizzolatto.
There you go. That's the flair.
Nicky. So he's teaming up with David Milch anyway to write and to work on possibly bring it back for season 3. I guess there's already 2 scripts written for it.
Right.
The big question is, does Matthew McConaughey come back? Because he could come back just as a different character.
Yeah, you were mentioning that. I don't know if that's being rumored, but I don't see it happening.
You don't think so?
Because he's such a huge star now.
Yeah,
he was right on the verge with that first season. I mean, he was he's always been a huge star, but like now he's
he's too big.
He's the big deal. I don't know. I mean, not even that he's too big. It's just like that takes a lot of time to go shoot that. I just don't know if.
But HBO has the money, so maybe
true.
Maybe they'd be able to pay for him.
That's true.
So True Detective.
I mean, and we were talking about this the other day. It's like True Detective 2, I only saw a little bit of it, but from what I've heard, it's not that it's terrible. It just had a lot to live up to.
Yeah.
And the problem with today is there's so much good TV that if it's not great, I don't have time for it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I can't take the time to watch good TV. Because there's so much great stuff out there that you can't ever watch it all.
Dear Hollywood, Ryan does not have time for your games.
We were like, maybe we should just have everybody take a couple years off, don't make any more TV, we can all catch up.
Yeah.
They never listen, though.
All right, so just quickly running through these, and then we'll kind of wrap up here in just a minute with our final things. But we've got Curb Your Enthusiasm season 9 wrapped. Very excited for Curb Your Enthusiasm. That's gonna be great. Pretty much everybody's back on that.
Yep.
So season 9's done with there. I think it comes out later this year. And we did get a new Silicon Valley trailer coming out April 23rd. So the season 4 trailer.
It looks interesting. I don't know. It's Richard
Silicon
quitting
Valley.
Again. Like I just feel like they kind of been in a rut.
Yeah.
Richard just like bungles everything and quits.
Well, it feels like it should have been 2 seasons.
They never give him a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the new trailer, it looks like he's building. He says we're building a new internet, and it looks like he's working with VR.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they'll let him actually succeed at something this year. It'll be interesting to see. I'm still gonna watch it. I still think it's one of the funnier shows around. I hope that this season gives us something new to look at.
Right. Well, there we go. Silicon Valley. So they're coming out April 23rd. Okay. A couple of final things here. And just, again, taking a look at the comments for best movie, The Mist. For Stephen King, The Mist, except minus the end. Nobody likes the end of The Mist. Spoilers. Yeah, it's bad. But
did they Dexter that movie?
Well, no, it's. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
Oh.
I saw a miniseries of it or whatever, and I saw the first one or something.
Oh, the movie is great. It's a good movie.
Okay.
I
think I was thinking of the wrong movie.
Real dark.
All right.
Yeah.
And I've seen The Fog, which is a different movie, but very similar.
Not The Fog. Yeah. The Mist is different, but it's terrible ending. Anyway, bouncing back to that question, a couple of final things here. American Horror Stories, another series that I've kind of bounced off of. I've tried to watch the last 2 seasons. I couldn't make it through all of them. But now we've got a casting news. So the new season 7 is going to be based on, it starts on election night 2016, which is already, for a lot of people, a horror story. And so it's, so it starts on that. And now
let's turn it into one anyway.
Now we found out that Billy Eichner, of all people, is going to be cast in the new season. And he's going to be playing in 6 to 7 episodes, playing a confidant of Sarah Paulson's character. So I don't know what Sarah Paulson's character. Yeah,
I'm a huge Billy Eichner fan.
Me too.
And for those who haven't seen Difficult People, which is his vehicle on Hulu,
yeah,
it's great. It's fantastic. It's really good comedy, really witty. And of course, there's Billy on the Street, which is always fun.
Is so funny. Yeah. So Billy Eichner, it's the year of him. I think he's going to be a huge star by the end of this year.
He's a big deal.
Yep. So Billy Eichner, that's enough for me to go back in and I'll definitely give season 7 a shot just because he's in it.
Nice.
Okay. I've got my Iron Fist review, which I'm going to give here in a second. Controversial Iron Fist review. You did have some updates on the Oscars fiasco.
Basically, we got some news out about how they're going to try to not ruin the Oscars next year.
Yeah.
And for those who didn't see it, everyone knows about
Everybody
this, right?
knows about this.
La La Land was
seen this? Have you heard about this?
was supposed to be awarded, but it was actually Moonlighting that won. Or, they screwed it all up. And it was all PricewaterhouseCoopers who did it. A couple of things. One thing is Brian Cullinan, who was shown tweeting at the awards, was the real fall guy. He's the guy that screwed up the envelope. And everyone was always wondering why, I think her name is Martha Ruiz, the other person in charge, was also taken out of it.
Yeah.
They were both fired off the committee or whatever.
Right.
And everybody's, saying, what did she do wrong? So we have more information on that. Oscars stage manager Gary Natoli said that part of her job was to make sure and watch and know all the winners ahead of time and have them memorized. So if anything did go wrong, they could jump in right away and fix it. And she obviously didn't do that.
Oh, panicked?
So that's why, she was supposed to jump in the second it was wrong. And so if anything went wrong. That was how it was supposed to go down. That's part of their, redundancy. Okay. It's if something goes wrong, they both have it memorized, and obviously neither of them did their jobs well. He was tweeting, she was just not on the ball.
Right.
But so this year they're going to do some things to fix it. Let's see, what is it? They are going to not allow them to have any electronics. They are going to...
So you're going to have to babysit them, essentially.
Yeah. They're going to have 3 people there. Instead of 2.
How about you just don't screw up? I don't know if more
people's
people's necessary.
One's going to be in the control room to quickly inform the show's director of any mistakes. And the envelopes will also be designed to make the categories more easily identifiable. You'd think they could have figured that out after
how can you not read
years.
I don't think it's going to be... All right. Well, anyway.
Hopefully they won't ruin the Oscars next year.
No, so there we go.
That'd be good.
I kind of hope they do because I thought it was awesome.
That was some amazing
so entertaining
TV. It really was.
All right. Final thing here today, and then we'll do a little bit of Stephen King wrap up. But I wanted to talk about Iron Fist. And let's get real. No, so I'm going to turn my hat around.
Everybody sit down.
We're going to wrap for a second. All right. So Iron Fist. If you have watched it, then great. Then you'll get something from what I'm talking about. But I think if you haven't watched it, I'm kind of aiming it more towards that because we've all seen the reviews. Iron Fist, the 4th of the Defenders characters to come out, get their own season on Netflix, and then Iron Fist is coming back to team up with the next one. It has gotten such terrible reviews. It's been largely banned as one of the worst things ever created.
I don't know if it's been that bad, but
I've seen so many reviews of that where people are overreacting, saying it's the worst thing ever. And I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I don't.
Taking a stand.
I'm taking a stand on it, but I think there's ways you can watch it and actually improve watching it and to ways to understand it. A lot of the criticism is... Well, there's a lot of criticism about it. I will say this. Yes, it is the least of the Marvel series that have been released on Netflix. But comparing it to those other ones, look, Luke Cage is fantastic. It's hard to come up to that. It's still a really good... It's still a good series. I'll take the really off of it.
Okay.
It's still a good series, and I think if you watch it with this in mind, because a lot of people complain about how whiny Danny Rand, Iron Fist, is... There's a thing to know going into it, and this isn't really a spoiler, but if you know anything about Iron Fist, they tell this in the trailers. He disappeared when he was 10, and he shows back up 15 years later after he's been living with magical monks. So there's your story.
Right.
And so, but he's been living with these monks, and I think a lot of the criticism that people have about him, about being so immature in it, they forget that he's socially stunted because he's been living with monks since he was 10.
Right.
And so he's thrown back into New York City, and he has no idea how to interact with anybody.
They're not very chatty.
No, they're not chatty, and he seems, everybody complains that he seems like a whiny little kid. He is a whiny little kid, just in his own mind. Mentally. So I'd say go into it with that attitude, and just know you're going to be annoyed by some of the things he does, but remember he's a stunted child.
And you may need some of this to actually enjoy the Defenders series, so you might want to pile through it.
You'll have to watch it.
And frankly, our own Rick Marshall, who does a lot of our reviews, we mentioned him a lot on the show. He didn't pan it that hard. He said it was the least of the 4
and
as
I
well.
agree with that.
But he said his biggest problem with it was that it just never had its big moment. But that also, I believe, was in the first 6 episodes. He's since watched the rest, and so I think I can't remember if he ended up having that moment or not. But anyway, he didn't hate it. Let's put it that way.
And Colleen Wing is great. That character is great. And also Harold Meacham, played by David Wenham. I think he's the real star of the whole thing.
Okay.
He's really fantastic.
Right.
So there's stuff in there. I'd say it's worth watching. That is my thing. It's worth watching.
All right.
That is what I want to get. All right. Finally, just to wrap up, we've got some more for the favorite Stephen King movie of all time, Green Mile, Maximum Overdrive.
Green Mile's great.
Green Mile's good. It's the bottom line is really hard to decide on which one. So leave your comments on this video here on Facebook and YouTube. And again, we're between the streams, so we go live every Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And feel free to email us anytime, podcast@digitaltrends.com. Let us know your thoughts or opinions on anything we've said. And we've got a huge backlog of episodes on iTunes for the audio version and Stitcher or videos that are up. Lots of ways to get in touch with us. So share it. Let us know your thoughts. I'm sure you disagree on some of the things we said. Let us know about that too.
50th episode next week.
50th episode
having
next
Bob
week.
Hope on just to commemorate it.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that.
Yes.
All right.
Digitally.
Maybe we'll drink some beer for that one. All right. So I think that's about it for this week. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with another episode.
Go see Boss Baby.